Welcome back to Security Architecture, the Real World. I'm Saba. In the previous episode, we looked at how a real attack moved cleanly through a perfect security architecture. Today, I want to talk about something just as common. What happens when development teams quietly root around security? Not because they're careless, because delivery pressure is real for them. Let's start with enterprise reality. In most organizations, product teams are measured on delivery, right? Security teams are measured on incidents. So they work on the same system, but they are driven by completely different incentives. So deadlines always win. So this incentive gap shapes almost every security outcome. Now let's look at the real scenario. A new microservice needed an urgent release. Gateway onboarding delayed the deployment. So a temporary exception was created. Security was informed after it was already in production. Some of you would have heard about this scenario before. If you've worked in enterprise environment, this probably feels familiar for all of us. Let's talk about why this keep happening. This usually is not malicious, right? It's pressure, delivery deadlines, complex security processes sometimes. Security is joining late or being pulled late, unclear ownership, and mainly high friction. When security feels slow or blocking, teams do what they are rewarded to do. They just ship. So, where did the architecture fail here? The architecture assumed cooperation. It assumed all the teams would follow the processes, that security gates were acceptable, that exceptions were all temporary, that developers understood the risk, but the reality looked different, where delivery won, gates were bypassed, temporary exceptions became permanent, risks felt abstract. So this is not a tooling problem. There is a design problem itself. So let me show you what this looks like visually. This is a typical enterprise flow from a high level. Development goes through CI/CD, then a security review, then a API gateway, then it goes to production. But when pressure increases, this red path starts appearing direct from development to production. That red line, what you see here, is not rebellion, right? It's survival. When security becomes a checkpoint instead of a pathway, teams route around it. So, what actually works? This is where architecture matters. In short, make the secure path the easiest path for everyone. Build secure by default pipelines so that people cannot skip that. Provide opinionated templates. Use some guardrails instead of approval gates. Engage security early in design. We all would have heard this. I'm still reinforcing this. So treat security as a platform, not as a blocker, right? So you don't enforce security with policies. You enable it through architecture itself. So here's what changed after applying this approach, right? So first thing, exceptions dropped, releases became faster, visibility completely improved, most of the frictions reduced, trust increased. Not just because security became weak, because it became usable. There is a big difference, right? And that leads to the core lesson. If developers can bypass security, they will. Sorry to say, but that's the truth, right? So if developers can bypass security, they will. Architecture must make the secure path the easiest path. Thanks for listening. See you in the next video.